What's up, ladies and gentlemen? The name of the show is Politics on My Mind, and I'm the host, Troy Griffith. Let's get the show started. It's going to be a good one.
All of you know who I am.
Yo, what's poppin', ladies and gentlemen? You're tuned into Politics on My Mind, and I am the host, Troy Griffith. This is episode 184. If you would like to listen to the podcast wherever you get your podcast, you can do so on SoundCloud, Google Play, TuneIn, iTunes. Just go into that search bar, type in Politics on My Mind, hit that subscribe button. If you would like to follow the podcast on Twitter, you can do so at POMM Podcast. And once again, that's on the Bluebird Twitter. Ladies and gentlemen, today is Monday, October 5th, 2020, and I would like to welcome you to the only political podcast for the hip-hop generation. As always, I have to tell you about the website, politicsonmymind.com. Once again, politics with an S, politicsonmymind.com. And something new, you can now listen to the podcast on YouTube. I load the episodes up there, not a video. It's the audio version of the podcast. I'm not that brave yet. I haven't gotten to the point where I can sit down, film the podcast, and then put it up on YouTube. Baby steps, baby steps. You know what I mean? As always, I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say this in the roughest, toughest way. Get the fuck out and vote. I'm sorry. I got to say it that way. Get out and vote, y'all. It's serious. Yo, this is the most important thing that you will do in the past 2 to 3 years. And I say 2 to 3 years because there's an election. If you listen to this podcast, I tell you all the time, there's an election every single year. So this is one of the most important things that you will be doing in the past 2 to 3 years. In most states, they are early voting. So get out there and vote. Get out there and vote. Don't stop. Just early vote. Request the absentee ballot if you're not registered to vote. Go ahead and register to vote. It's important. It's imperative. And I will give you the states that are early voting. So far, as of today, October 5th, these following states are allowing you to early vote: Minnesota, South Dakota, Virginia, Vermont, Michigan, Montana. Ohio starts as of tomorrow. Nebraska, Iowa, South Carolina. Indiana starts as of tomorrow. As of Wednesday, Arizona starts. Ladies and gentlemen, I will say this: by next week, by next Monday, majority of states will be voting. So if you're listening to this at any time in October, it's more than likely your state can early vote. Get out there and vote. Fill out your census. In Maryland, in the state of Maryland, today, Monday, October 5th, is the last day to fill out your census. Fill out the census. It's just as important. Get out there, fucking fill out your census. Fucking vote. I'm sorry, but sometimes you just got to say it aggressively so you can get it across. And I hope no one takes that disrespectfully. I'm so like, we got to do this, y'all. We got to get this. This man in this office, you are witnessing how dictatorships are built. We have to get out there and vote, but I'll talk about that later. As you can see, the title of the episode is October Surprise. Stick around, right? You're learning how dictatorships are built. If this man is voted into office again, you won't recognize the democracy you once knew. You almost don't recognize the democracy you once knew from 4 years ago. So therefore, get out there and vote. Stop telling me about this and that and it doesn't matter. How about you read a book? How about you inform, educate yourself before you say, I'll get into this a little bit later, but when I run into people I'm trying to register to vote, and I always run into that one uninformed person, and they say it doesn't matter, and they keep walking, and I say to them, you want to talk about it or you want to talk about it? And they give me the look like, what? Do you want to just talk about it or you want to learn and talk about it? There's two different things. Some people talk just to hear themselves. You understand? I remember when I was a kid growing up in Brooklyn, I remember one time one of my boys was playing with another kid in the neighborhood, and, they would play fight. And the little kid, which was much younger than us, he said, don't swing it, bring it. You understand? So it's a form of like, stop talking about it. It's either you about it or you're not about it. You understand? Get out there and vote, right? It matters. Things happen when you vote. I'm trying to figure out which one I want to talk about. Let's do this. Let's talk about Bob Gibson. If you've never heard of Bob Gibson, this is according to STLtoday.com. Cardinals Hall of Famer Bob Gibson dies at 84 after bout with cancer. Now, I have to say, I've never heard of Bob Gibson, but I saw him, the news popping up, and I said, oh, let me give it a read. Come to find out, this man was a legend. They like to talk about Babe Ruth. This man was a legend. He was a Hall of Famer for the Cardinals. And according to this article, the Cardinals have a goodly number of pitchers enshrined in the National Baseball Hall of Fame. But by any account, the greatest Cardinals pitcher of them all was Bob Gibson, who died at age 84 on Friday night in Omaha, Nebraska. He was suffering from pancreatic cancer. Bob Gibson, his death came on the 52nd anniversary of perhaps his greatest game, a record 17 strikeout performance in Game 1 of the 1968 World Series. And they said this about Bob Gibson, the chairman of the St. Louis Cardinals. He said, Bob Gibson was arguably one of the best athletes and among the fiercest competitors to ever play the game of baseball. And that's Cardinals chairman Bill DeWitt Jr. And check this article out. If you never heard about Bob Gibson, check it out, because I know when I saw him coming across the news, and I was like, yeah, let me go read about him. I was like, wow, like this is a interesting guy. You know what I mean? So check him out. Another black male died at the age of 84. Another Hall of Famer at a time, mind you, at a time when it wasn't, you didn't see that many black players. So here it is now. Not as many as they have now. Don't challenge me on the specifics, right? But I wanted to talk about that. I just wanted to throw him in there because we got to remember our ancestors, right? When they're here and when they're gone, right? I said that to somebody. I was like, we talking about voting, and I was like, yo, man, our ancestors, and immediately I saw the definition. I saw the look in their eye, like when I said ancestor, and I'm thinking to myself, like, does this person know the definition of an ancestor? They can be, they can be somebody like who is right there. Like, it could be your great grandmother who may still be alive. You know what I mean? So when I was referring to the ancestor, I was referring to those alive and those who have passed on. In terms of talking about vote, look, check the Webster definition. One from whom a person is descended and who is usually more remote in the line of descent than a grandparent. So it could be your great grandmother who could still be alive. Hey, look, my grandmother, her great grandkids, she got to see her great grandkids before she passed on. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, so they're around. Not all of them are deceased and gone, but our ancestors, we have to remember them in the fight they fought for, so we can do simple things like go vote. You understand? So I wanted to talk about that. And talking about, people using their platforms, like Bob Gibson using their platforms, Saturday Night Live, which is I'm a huge fan of, but I'm not going to lie to you. As time go on, it's getting harder and harder to watch that show because it's not as funny as it used to be. It's like it's funny, but it has its parts. But however, this past weekend, what's her name? Megan Thee Stallion was on Saturday Night Live, and she was the musical guest, and Chris Rock was the host. So she did something that I thought was really cool. And if I can just play it for you, hopefully I won't get blocked for having music on here. But I can't do nothing with that. But I don't think it was music. It comes in on the end. So without further ado, here is Megan Thee Stallion using our platform to bring attention to shit that's going on in the world around us today. Here goes. have nothing to add. She said it all. Protect our black women, protect our black men, because we tired of seeing hashtag about our black men. And then she goes into singing about I'm a savage. You know what I mean? But I just wanted to use that. A lot of times artists get flack, for, just being artists and forgetting who they are, where they came from. And it's important to, hashtag protect black women. And it's important to use your platform because those around you that, who are less fortunate, they need that platform. So it's super important. And I'm glad she did it. And I was watching, I was like, yo, this is pretty cool right here. You know what I mean? But this is Politics on My Mind, the only political podcast for the hip hop generation. So I had to throw some hip hop in there, but now I'm going to bring some law in here. Check this out. Maryland Matters. If you listen to that clip, you hear, what's her name? Tamika Mallory. And on the last episode, I played that clip. I'm ahead of my time, ladies and gentlemen. So far ahead of my time, y'all in my rear view. That's a Jay-Z lie. All right, so look, right? So according to MarylandMatters.org, and I touched on one of these laws. Here's a look at the new state laws taking effect on October 1st. So in the state of Maryland, as of October 1st, which was last Thursday, there are some new laws taking effect. I mentioned the styrofoam one last episode, but this episode I will tell you about an update to Maryland's hate crime law, named for slain Army Second Lieutenant Richard Collins III, is one of several anti-discrimination measures going into effect October 1st. Under this Collins law, and if you don't remember who Army Second Lieutenant Richard Collins III was, he was actually Bowie State University student who was over there at Maryland University, and for all intents and purposes, someone murdered him for no reason at all. And we know the public knew that it was because the color of her skin, but under the law they cannot prove it was hate crime. So this bill was sponsored by Delegate C.T. Wilson of Charles County and Senator Joanne C. Benson. Sorry about that. I had to turn my mic down. It was way too loud in my ear. Of Prince George's County. The hate crimes update was named in honor of the Bowie State University ROTC candidate who was murdered by Sean Urbanski at a University of Maryland College Park bus stop. As I mentioned, he was a young rising star, a young military officer about to be commissioned, according to State Senator William C. Smith Jr. of Montgomery County. Obviously, as I mentioned, Lieutenant Collins III was black. According under the law, this is through the law, the fact he didn't actually utter a certain phrase was not enough to convict him of a hate crime as well. So we changed the standard to allow prior activity to be enough to prove intent. We are able to give that small peace of mind to the family. So what this basically was, let's just say that, a white person walks up to a black person. Think Nia Wilson in California. I don't know how they did that, if they did that on the any type of hate crime law, right? But let's say a white person walks up to a black person and yells out the N-word. Under the previous hate crime law, that because it happened right then and there, they couldn't use that. But let's say now under this new law, this person, you can, whoever commits the crime, you can go back, look at their Facebook posts, look at text messages, and if there's any type of hate, spewed, be it social media, electronically, whatever the case may be, you have family and friends saying yes. You can go look at, go to their house. If that's part of the crime scene, they go back to their house. I don't know. They find the Confederate flag, they find the swastika, whatever the case may be. They can now prove because of previous activity, prior activity, they can now say, hey, look at this. This is grounds to charge as a hate crime law. And unfortunately, I think it's not that simple as they make it out to seem, like, oh, we did this. Because you will have a defense attorney obviously fighting on behalf of a white, be clear, everyone can commit hate crimes laws. Everyone can violate hate crime laws, but we usually see this a lot under for the LGBT community and the Black community, Asian community and such, which is committed. The perpetrator doesn't always have to be a white person, but in this case, you will have a defense attorney fighting on behalf of a white defendant. There's a white judge, with a white system that will make sure that white defendant is not charged with this hate crime law. Because when you're charged with a hate crime law, your charges, your time is enhanced. So if you were going to do, for example, 10 years, now you'll have to do 17, right? Because of this enhanced crime. So I'm happy to see this pass, but I'm looking forward to see how it goes into effect and how effective it is. Another law is the anti-discrimination law. And I got to say, I had no clue. This made no sense. Fair Housing Bill, the Fair Housing Bill, HB 231, SB 50, the Home or Housing Opportunities Made Equal Act. And basically what this was, and it was introduced by Delegate Brooke E. Learman from Baltimore, what this was that it prohibits landlord from discriminating against individual based on their source of income to include government subsidies, housing vouchers, when renting or selling property. So basically this is basically like stopping people with Section 8, right? So basically you're renting a home, you're renting an apartment, whatever the case may be, and you're like, you see the person sole income is coming from or partially coming from Section 8. Then you decide, I don't want to do this, right? Totally ignorant. Are you getting your rent paid? Because there's a certain stigma applied to people with Section 8, right? As if there are these people that are just wild. It's a stigma. People buy into it, but chances are most communities you live in, they are Section 8 people, because it's just something, it has nothing to do with the person's not working. The person could be working at what is called the working poor, like the Reverend Dr. William Barber always said, low wealth, where you're working, but you can't afford the basic stuff. So this kind of hurt my heart. You know what I mean? It's like, and as the article said, I think this law will unleash economic opportunity for thousands of families across Maryland, a vast majority who have vouchers and are single mothers. Come on. That is so. And this, right along the line, this other one, employment opportunity. This law, New York passed it, D.C. passed it, now Maryland has it, known as the Crown Act. This law bans employment discrimination due to racial perception regarding hair texture or hairstyle by expanding the state's legal definition of race. This bill was sponsored. Sponsors included Senator Smith and Delegate Stephanie Smith of Baltimore City. And they had to add, they're not related. And let me tell you something about state senators, right? So anytime you're around and a state senator walk up, people will be like, oh, Senator such and such. And if you're not familiar with the government system, you won't know the difference between a state senator and a federal, like your federal senator, right? Like, if you will, to make a differentiation. So like your state senator is a state senator. Your U.S. senator is your U.S. senator. But there's some people that may not know the difference. So when that person walks into somebody say, oh, there goes Senator such and such. Yeah, but I'll use Maryland. Yeah, but that's not Senator Chris Van Hollen or Senator Ben Cardin, who, by the way, both of them need to go. That's a whole nother story. But I wanted to tell you about these laws, and there are a lot more. You could check it out at marylandmatters.org. These things are important because, especially the Crown Act, I know black women, you out there, you get, you have your hairstyle and, people make comments. But now guess what? Your employer can't fire you, discriminate against you because of your hairstyle. So protect black women. That's where I was going with that. It took me forever. Speaking of another law, I brought up California earlier. California, this is according to NBC News.com. Historic California law establishes path to reparations for black people, descendants of slaves. Here's the thing. California on Wednesday became the first state to adopt a law paving the way for black residents and descendants of slaves to receive reparations. Don't get your panties in a bunch, right? Because check this out. This was authored by Assemblywoman Shirley Weber, a Democrat representing San Diego, who is chair of the California's Legislative Black Caucus. Here's the thing. This is just the task force that comes up and say, hey, let's study this. This is pretty much, they're going to study this and say, yo, let's see all the ways that, black people deserve reparation, as if they already don't know. You understand? So this what they came up with, this law they came up with, this to study, is to do that, to study and find out where the do's and the don'ts are, where, you know, the programs we need to enact, the programs we need to get rid of. And it's that simple. And it's weird to me to study something that you already know that's taking place. For example, right? I don't know if California as end cash bail, right? One of the laws that Maryland passed, I believe in Montgomery County, they got rid of speed cameras, right? They got rid of police officers pulling people over for traffic tickets and say, yo, you know what? We'll have the speed cameras take care of that. It's little things like that that make a difference, because look, when a speed camera, takes that picture of your license plate and send you something in the mail, it doesn't affect and we're going back to those subsidized vouchers, right? It doesn't affect your income in the long term, if you understand what I'm saying. So you get a ticket in the mail and that ticket may be $40. Still, it may be a lot. However, a police officer pulls you over, gives you a ticket, your insurance go up, then you got to miss a day of work to go to court to fight the ticket. So you end up losing double negative. So there are programs California can look at and say, you know what, just like going back to MarylandMatters.gov, where there's a speed camera law that now says the Motor Vehicle Administration will no longer have the authority to suspend a vehicle's registration if the owner of or driver fails to pay a traffic ticket, traffic light, or speeding ticket. And that's exactly it. So you don't go through all of this. I said, they were removing the officers. I think there was one county who was saying they stopped. Yeah, that was Montgomery County, right? But you think of the long-term effect. And these are things California can look at as opposed to just studying and say, we'll get rid of it right now. And these are baby steps that Black America has always have to take, because change is incremental when it comes to Black America. And it's unfortunate that it has to just be a study and not a full out, let's see how we're going to distribute or how we're going to create equity among Black people in California. But I guess you have to give people credit where it's due. I'll say this, and I'll talk about this later. I was driving to a voter registration event, and I passed the church, and the church is in Bowie, Maryland. I passed the church in Bowie, Maryland. And they had a sign up. I'm not a religious person, so don't take this with a grain of salt. I'm just talking about the church, what I saw. When I say take it with a grain of salt, don't take it as if I am a religious person or I'm a church-going person. We're all spiritual to a certain extent, right? So I don't want to turn anyone away who is a religious-fearing person. I do not mean any disrespect. I just don't want you to think that I was going there. However, I was driving past the church, and they had one of those LED things, right? I don't know what you call it, like, has the message or whatever. And as I'm passing it, it says, God calls us into the game, not to take score, right? And I was like, yo, that shit hit, right? Like, I was like, oh, shit. I'll say that shit again. God calls us into the game, not to take score. I was like, yo, that right there rocked me. I was like, yo, like, I love that. Like, that's ill. And I have to remember that in this political thing. And if you listen to episode 182 with PG Changemakers, and I was like, yo, what's up with all these athletes? They now in the Black Lives Matter. And I believe it was Krista Arroyo said, don't question why they took so long to get here. Just be happy they're here. So it made me think of that. And this political thing, I have to remember when I'm listening to politics, watching politics, whatever the case may be, give people, like, don't take score like up. You know what I mean? Just give them their credit. They're in the game. Don't take score. So we have to go ahead and give credit to Assemblywoman Shirley Weber, and hopefully the governor of California lends his full support behind her in this study. So we really hope it's there, and it would be super awesome, that this gets passed and the people of California, the Black residents of California, get the reparations that they're due. Yeah, we know California was a free state, but we know what that means in reality. Were they really free? However, there's that. I don't know what I want to talk about next. There's a couple things. So the October surprise, if you made it this far, you're probably wondering what the October surprise is. Give me like 5 more minutes and I'll talk about it. But I want to talk about, because we don't just always want to talk about the presidential election, because there, as I mentioned on the last episode, there are elections across the country. There's Arizona, there's North Carolina, there's Maine. And I'm throwing out the states with Senate seats that are up for the grabs, where the Democratic Party could take it. There's South Carolina. There's Georgia. Ralph Warnock, who is a pastor at the church that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was able to, he's pastoring at the church that Dr. Martin Luther King preached, or pastored, however you conjugate that, right? So there are those races. There's Mike Espy in there's Mike Espy in Mississippi, who is challenging a racist Cindy Hyde-Smith. It's possible he could take it. If you don't live in those states, donate. If you live in those states, vote for those people. Vote for Mark Kelly in Arizona, Sarah Gideon in Maine, Jamie Harrison in South Carolina, Ralph Warnock in Georgia. These are states that could change the outcome of whether the Democratic Party wins back control of the Senate, right? And I want to spend a little time talking about Jamie Harrison. He had a debate with Senator Lindsey Graham, and I may play one clip from it. Yes, I'm going to play one clip from it. I don't know which clip. I just had pulled it up, and I was like, I'll just play it. I'll play a clip. However, this is important because the state of South Carolina is on its way to possibly, if Jamie Harrison is successful, have 2 black senators. I think this is the first time since Reconstruction, or since after Reconstruction, if that makes it, after Reconstruction. However, it'll be the first time in a very long time, decades, they will have a black Democratic senator. And Jamie Harrison is fighting for the people. Now, remember what I said about God puts us in the game, but not to take score? I have to learn that with Jamie Harrison, because for myself, Jamie Harrison, I was like, he's part of the establishment. And what I mean by that is this, and that doesn't matter. We should vote for Jamie Harrison, right? But what I mean by that is this. He is a protege of James Clyburn. He's been around. He's been around the political sphere in South Carolina. But after looking at this, after watching this debate, I have to, I've learned that, like, looking and watching, you have to separate the two. The slang shit sometimes don't work. Anyway, after watching the debate with Jamie Harrison and Lindsey Graham, Jamie Harrison has convinced me that he cares about the people. Forget that his mentors, and that's what I'm looking at, I'm forgetting. I'm thinking to myself, that was my mouth that made that sound. I'm thinking to myself that here's Jamie Harrison, and he's only going to do what Jim Clyburn wants him to do. He's not going to tackle the issues that are at hand. How disrespectful of me to think of him that way. So after I watched the debate, I said, Jamie Harrison really understand what it's like and really understand what the people of South Carolina needs. So I want to bring that to your attention. As they're having this debate, Jamie Harrison is continuously talking about the issues. And Lindsey Graham, who's the current senator, one of the current senators from South Carolina, he's Donald Trump in training. He kept bringing up illegal, like every other question. He kept bringing up illegal immigrants. It's undocumented immigrants, right? And that's to put an image in your head for you to think of Mexicans, for you to think of Mexicans crossing the borders, for you to think of coyotes and all that good shit, right? But Jamie Harrison stuck to the issues. He talked about student loan. He talked about the highway system. He talked about putting food on people's table. He talked about health care. And I'll play a clip of that from you. And then I'll give you, I may contradict myself a little bit, but I'm going to give you a clip. I'm going to give you some words on the other end when we come back from playing the clip that I wish the Democratic Party would stop. So without further ado, here's Jamie Harrison, just a little piece of what he was doing in straight sunning Lindsey Graham at the South Carolina Senate debate. Here goes.
And your words, your promise was that no judicial nominee should be considered or approved or what have you in the last year of an election. And you even named President Trump when you said it. And so this is my thing. You know, my grandfather always taught me, he said, Jamie, a man is only as good as his word. Well, Senator, how good is your word when you made a promise to the American people? And even more, you made a promise to the folks in South Carolina that you wouldn't be doing what you're doing right now. And that's the problem that I have. The greatest, I think the greatest heresy that you could do as a public servant is to betray the trust of the people that you took an oath to serve. And that's what you have done. Now, just be a man of it and stand up and say, you know what, I changed my mind. I'm going to do something else. But don't go back and blame it on somebody else for something, a flip-flop that you're making yourself.
Okay, just a little backstory, what he's talking about. So, for those of you who follow politics, you know the Merrick Garland story. For those of you who don't, in the 2016 election that year, a Supreme Court nominee came open because Justice Scalia passed away. So President Barack Obama at the time nominated Merrick Garland to the Supreme Court, and the Republican Party lost their mind. How dare you appoint someone, nominate someone, and you can't appoint them because it's an election year and the American people should be able to choose who the next president will be so they can, so that president will be able to choose the next nominee. Okay, and that happened, right? Let's fast forward 4 years. You know how to say karma's a motherfucker? Well, karma's a motherfucker. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, sidebar a little here, President Barack Obama asked the woman, can you resign while I'm here so I can appoint someone? She said no. Therefore, that's the story, right? She said no because she thought, like the rest of the country, that Hillary Clinton would win the election. And she wanted to stick around and allow, Hillary Clinton to be able to appoint the next person. And that didn't happen. Hillary Clinton lost. She was unsuccessful. She got the election stolen from her. Russia, voter theft, all that good shit, right? So here we are. We're in election year. Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away. And now the Republican Party is trying to do exactly the same thing that they said should not be done in an election year so the people can be able to pick the president so that president can pick the nominee. So according to their rules, they should wait for the election because, the American people should pick the president. And if that president is Joe Biden should be able to pick the nominee, but they're not having that. So Jamie Harrison is calling Lindsey Graham out because he said it. He was like, yo, hold me accountable. And he's talking about Trump. If Trump gets a nominee in an election year, I will be against it. But here he is now saying, oh, according to the Constitution. But here's the thing. White supremacists don't play fair, right? Which Donald Trump has admitted to, and the Republican have committed to white supremacy. So what Jamie Harrison is asking someone to do who supports a dictator is beyond logic. You understand? So therefore, I'm like, the Democratic Party just wants the Republican Party to play fair. The Republican Party have tapped out on democracy. The Republican Party has tapped out on even being a political party. They're saying now we are on our ascension to a dictatorship, and they're cool with it. And I just want to say that. Wonderful job to Jamie Harrison for sticking to the point. That dude right there, oh man, I was just blown away. And it goes to show why we should listen to these things. We should watch them because we get to learn about the candidate, as I did. However, this is the point I want to make. Can members of the Democratic Party, incumbents, can you fucking stop with the Republicans are my best friend? In this debate, Jamie Harrison said at one point that it was at one point of his, when he was in the House, South Carolina House, him and one of the Republicans, Matt Moore, were like best friends. And there was probably a story written that they were like brothers or something. They're Democratic incumbents. Fucking stop that shit. the Republican Party that you think is not, right? Stop pretending they're this bipartisan people and all of that. Stop that shit. Stop it. Stop. Jamie Harrison did it. And it's corny. It's played out. You're friends with the white supremacists because 99% of the time it's a white person who feel as though black people shouldn't get equality. Simple and plain. I started looking at Erskine and like I look at I just called one of the old senators' name out, but here's the thing. I look at these things when the Democratic Party and Republicans get together. Back in the day, it used to be two white people, right? A white senator from one state and a white senator from other state, a Democratic senator and a Republican senator. They get together and say, we're going to pass this bill, and it's bipartisan. But the question never gets asked. How does it affect that bipartisan bill you're coming up with? How does it affect black and brown communities in America? How does it affect black and brown people in America? What does it do for equality? Does it increase it or does it decrease it? That's the question. So unless we're getting equality out of YouTube friendship and passing bills, Democratic Party, stop it. Right, but let's get back to what he was talking about. Judge Amy Coney Barrett, she will be on the Supreme Court. That fight is over. It's done and gone. But here's what we're facing, and here's why it's important to vote. Because this is according to Vox.com. The Supreme Court will hear a case that could destroy what remains on the Voting Rights Act. So if you remember, the Supreme Court gutted, the Voting Rights Act, Section 4 or 5. I believe they gutted Section 4, so therefore it rendered Section 5 useless or vice versa. You understand? So now in Shelby County versus Holder, where Shelby County, Alabama, they sued Eric Holder, Department of Justice, and said, why do you have to supervise us? Racism doesn't exist. That's essentially what the Supreme Court said under John Roberts. Now, the two cases that the Supreme Court will hear after the election come from Arizona. The specific issue in the Democratic National Committee cases concerned two Arizona laws that required certain ballots to be discarded. One law requires voting officials to discard in their entirety ballots cast by voters who vote in the wrong precinct, rather than simply not counting votes for local candidates who the voter should not have been able to vote for. The other law prohibits ballot collection. These fancy words they use are ballot harvesting. Basically, it's I'm going to the polls to drop. I'm going to the Board of Elections to drop my absentee ballot off. My cousin, my auntie, my spouse, they have one. I'll bring it for them, or a few of them. They don't want you to do that anymore. So these are the two things here. But here's the deal. This is a way to chip away at the Voting Rights Act. You understand? And in saying that, be careful listen to what they said. The Arizona laws that require certain ballots to be discarded. So if you live in John Smith County and you went over to Susan Smith County to vote, they're going to throw your vote away, as opposed to coming up with a system that will allow your vote to be counted. So that in itself is problematic if the Supreme Court takes this up and says, let's do away with it. You understand? That's what's at stake. So if I said to you, Amy Coney Barrett is a done deal, she will be sitting on the Supreme Court, it's a fight that's over, because the Republican Party will confirm her to sit on the Supreme Court. Why talk about this? Because if Joe Biden wins the presidency, the Democratic Party gains the House and the Senate, they can pass laws. Because for the past few years, I've been hearing, there are three co-equal branches. No, they're not. They're not three co-equal branches. It was under, I believe, under the Affordable Care Act. I believe the Supreme Court had said, if Congress passed laws, then there's nothing for us to do. Essentially, that's what they said. Once Congress passed laws and they go through it the right way, the Supreme Court can't touch it. Joe Biden wins, the Democratic Party wins back the House and the Senate by majority, then the Democratic Party could pass laws that will protect each and every American person who's able to do so who's a citizen of the United States to cast a vote without their vote being thrown away and create oversight on these counties. That'll be federal law looking over state law and local laws. You understand? So therefore, this is an important election, ladies and gentlemen. Do not sit it out. A lot is riding on this election. Let's talk about the October surprise title. Here's the deal. Let's back up a little, right? Let's back up. So last week it came out that a grand jury in the Breonna Taylor's in the killing of Breonna Taylor. Daniel Cameron, I played the clip from Tamika Mallory last week where she said Daniel Cameron is doing the work of white supremacists, paraphrase, and where he basically went into to be honest with you, I don't have to read anything because I've worked in a prosecutor's office before and I know what goes in. Actually, I worked in the grand jury section, right? I used to work there, do not work at the DOJ anymore. So here's the deal. The Daniel Cameron took the case, the killing of Breonna Taylor, to the grand jury, lied in there and or did not present to the grand jury a case for the killing of Breonna Taylor. So now you have one of the grand jurors coming out and say, I want to speak up and I want the judge to lift the requirement that stops the gag order, if you will, that will prevent me from talking about this, because where there's smoke, there's fire, right? So I can only imagine that this grand juror is saying to him or herself, we'll use the term it as they use in undercover things or whatever. Use it because it doesn't describe a male or a female. It just it, right? I can imagine it says that what is presented to the media was not what was presented in the grand jury, right? So that smoke got shuffled. And Daniel Cameron, the Attorney General of Kentucky, who took on this case, was a special prosecutor to this case, he was forced by a grand juror, who spoke up and said, release the tapes. He released the tapes, and the tapes were supposed to come out on, I believe, forgive me, I think Friday was October 2nd, I believe. I'll go with that. It was supposed to be released on Friday, October 2nd. The media totally did away with that news and moved on to the other news. So, yes, Friday, October 2nd, the tapes of the grand jury were supposed to be released. I believe it was Thursday night, Friday morning, we find out that Donald Trump, the current president of the United States, stated that he has the coronavirus. The news media lost it. That's all they spent on every single day. All day Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. That's all they talked about, right? So there's that. That's the October surprise. In politics, the October surprise is usually something that's supposed to upend your campaign, right? It's supposed to upend your campaign. I'll go back to 2016 for those of you who are old enough to remember. It was James Comey, Comey, not to be confused with Amy Coney Barrett. James Coney, who came out with October and says he's opening a federal investigation into Hillary Clinton's email. You have him to thank as part of the reason that we have Donald Trump. Had he not done that, he probably would not have deterred people from going out to vote for Hillary Clinton. However, we're here. So October surprises usually do this. Also, another October, the October surprise is Donald Trump coming forward and said he has the coronavirus, right? So there was a lot of talk of if he has it, if he doesn't. None of that shit matters. Let's go with the face value that he's, him and his team has said that he has the coronavirus. As I'm always taught, right? As I've been taught recently that you go ahead, as my wife said to me, is give them the same energy they're giving you, right? So let's go ahead and give Donald Trump the same energy that he has given to the same 200,000+ people who have lost their lives. Let's do what he did. Let's move on with our lives. Let's not even think about Donald Trump. As my mother says, he hasn't even been born yet. Right? And if you want to understand what the meaning of that is and how my mother functions in this world, how she deals with people, and you know me personally, reach out. I'll explain to you. When my mother says you have not even been born yet, that means she has wiped you out of her conscience. You understand? So let's treat Donald Trump with that same energy. Whether he has it or not, it doesn't matter. Let's move on. Right? He's not our worry. The 200,000 people who have lost their lives are our worries, or we should be worried about. The 7 million people who have been infected, who has contracted the coronavirus, is who we should be worried about. The long-term effects that it has on our healthcare insurance system that we should totally get rid of, because as Representative Katie Porter, go look that up on YouTube. Representative Katie Porter, look that up. How she totally tore down a pharmaceutical CEO for receiving $13 million because he raised the price. She was talking to Big Pharma CEO. Just go to YouTube, type in KT Porter to Big Pharma CEO. You understand? So the 6 million plus people who have been infected who has contracted this virus, who will have long-term health effects. Let's focus on those people. And how you focus on those people is voting Donald Trump out of office, right? So let's move on. So there was something else that this October surprise blocked. Melania Trump. There was a tape of her totally shitting on Christmas, right? And during the Obama years, President Obama years, there was talk of they're trying to kill Christmas. No one says Merry Christmas anymore, and this and that. But we have the First Lady of the United States, who herself was a birther, who herself, an immigrant, was questioning the citizenship because she subscribed to whiteness. She came to this country and became white. Right? She assimilated. Even though she talks funny, she assimilated. So she's a racist and a white supremacist in herself. You understand? So she is caught on tape basically saying, F Christmas. Don't take my word for it. I'll play it for you.
They didn't have that in their own countries.
Right.
They sleep on the floor. They are,
There's
they are
nothing.
fed. They are taking care nicely there. But, they are not with parents. It's sad. But when they come here alone or with coyotes or illegally, you need to do something.
Right.
And a lot of like moms and kids, they are taught how to do it. They go over and they say like, oh, we will be killed by gang member. We will be it's so dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
So they allowed to stay here. Do you understand?
I do. And they're the ones that are the bad ones.
Yeah, and they are not. It's not true that they would. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Some of them they're using that lines that they're not professional, but they are taught by other people what to say to come over and to let them go to stay here, because they could easily stay in Mexico, but they don't want to stay in Mexico because Mexico doesn't take care of them the same as America does. Who gives a about Christmas stuff and decoration?
Who gives a fuck about Christmas stuff and decoration? All of that is what the October surprise of Donald Trump having coronavirus wiped out. The news media spent all of their time just talking about him having the coronavirus. You understand? So some of you listening to that will say, yeah, but what's wrong with what she said? Some of you will say that to yourself. And I say to you, if you feel that way about her talking about immigrants or whatever, and she's only talking about the kids at the border, congratulations, you've bought into white supremacy yourself, because majority of the people who are undocumented in the country are those who come on an airplane and overstay their welcome on a visa. So they get their documents legally and just don't end up going back to where they are. But somehow congratulations, you've had them convince you that our problem is Mexico. So you've bought into the bullshit as well. Now, so there's that. And remember, for years, they were saying President Obama was trying to do away with Christmas. Here you have a first lady who's a foreigner, by the way, that she questioned President Barack Obama's citizenship, I laugh because it's funny, because she could barely speak, but yet she's questioning a man that went to Harvard, who was a Harvard law professor, right? Come on, who was a Harvard law editor. Like, come on. Anyway, right? So you have this person right here. She's literally cursing Christmas. But the bombshell was all of this happened, right? And here it comes, the October surprise. Don't forget the debate. Let's talk about that. Donald Trump totally flubbed on the presidential debate. He totally fucked up. He didn't have no clue what he was doing. His tactic was, let me interrupt. But Joe Biden did something, and I got to go to my notes for this one. I wrote down a couple notes. Joe Biden did something that I felt was magical. As Donald Trump kept interrupting him, Joe Biden would stare into the camera and he will say what he needed to say. When he was making, I'll play this. Let me play this. Here is Joe Biden talking about his son, Beau Biden, who passed away due to cancer. And Donald Trump totally interrupts this moment to talk about Joe Biden's other son, who has an opioid addiction. And Joe Biden, what you would hear him say, he looks into the camera and basically says, to those of you who out there who have children who are addicted to opioids, you understand my pain. Totally crushed Donald Trump the moment Donald Trump was trying to have. Without further ado, here goes.
My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot, and the people left behind there were heroes.
Really?
And I resent.
Are you talking about Hunter? Are you talking about Hunter?
I'm talking about my son, Beau Biden. You're talking about.
I don't know Beau. I know Hunter.
Yeah,
Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. He wasn't dishonorably.
Cocaine use.
My son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it, and I'm proud of him.
Yo, that man is one evil man, and I'm talking about Donald Trump. Here it is. Joe Biden is talking about his son, Beau Biden, who lost his bout to cancer, and he interrupted him and said, "Who we talking about? Hunter Biden?" Because he wants to get to a talking point, Donald Trump, and he's like, "No, we're talking about Beau," and dismissive, and he says, "I don't know Beau. Beau passed away. What you mean you don't know Beau?" You understand? President Barack Obama gave the eulogy for Beau Biden. And, it tears me up how somebody could be so evil. And as Joe Biden is talking about his son, Beau Biden, who passed away, Donald Trump is rudely looking down. These people are evil. They don't care about politics, right? The white people that support Donald Trump and you black men out there, you black men who support Donald Trump, man. An ingredient, I learned this from Barbara Smith. She was a guest on Democracy Now! One of the ingredients of white supremacy is patriarchy. And your selfishness to think of yourself only as a man and not as a member of your community is beyond understanding. This weekend I was doing voter registration, and I ran into this black man asking him if he was registered to vote. He said, "I'm not voting for the top of the ticket, but I'll vote down ballot." And he had all these things to say. And I'm looking at him like, bro, you're like, fuck it, I'm going to use the word. The ignorance is beyond me. Ran into this other guy. He worked at Planet Fitness. He was beyond fucking ignorant. He was telling me all the good things Donald Trump has done, but he doesn't vote. But he's telling me, he was like, "Yo, I got people that's deep in this shit. I be studying politics." I was like, "What? Who the fuck? What college you go to?" They're like, what are you talking about? I be studying politics, right? And I'm looking at dude, and I'm like, bro, it seemed like, and I'm not calling him bro. Like, I don't do that. You know what I mean? I don't do that shit. My bro. He not my bro. I don't know him. You know what I mean? I'm looking at him and I'm like, yo, you sound ignorant as fuck. He had the stance and he's like, yo, I got people that study this. I got people all in this. I study politics. That's all I do. Sir, it doesn't look like you do if you're saying there's some good things that Donald Trump has done. You understand? So, to the black men who is supporting this, the whatever you're gaining from it, I have no clue. But you should take a long, deep look in the mirror, and I ask you, who hurt you? Who did it to you? Go speak with them, right? Because you're looking bad out here in these streets, right? So to know that this man could be so evil is just beyond me. Here it is, Joe Biden. But, like I said, Joe Biden took the moment away. He looked at Americans, specifically white Americans, because we know when they talk about drug addiction for black communities, it was the war on drugs. But now that it's affecting white communities, it's an opioid crisis. So Joe Biden was trying to connect with white America when he was doing that. He would tell you he was trying to connect with all Americans, but we know what that's code for. Because if you're trying to connect with black Americans or white Americans, you'll say, I'm trying to connect with black Americans, white Americans, Latino Americans, Asian Americans, Pacific Islander Americans, specifically Native Americans, right? Who encounter, because say what you mean and mean what you say, who encounter themselves or their children have an opioid addiction. That's what Joe Biden did. He brought it home. That's what he tried to do in that debate. But when you're arguing with a fool, people can't tell who's who. One of the clips I'm not going to play is Chris Wallace, who was the moderator, did a terrible job compared to Judy Gatson in South Carolina. She did an amazing job between Lindsey Graham and Jamie Harrison, right? But one of the questions that the moderator, Chris Wallace, asked Joe Biden, he said, ask both of them, the president and the former vice president, is about racism and why should black Americans trust you? Immediately, Donald Trump went to the crime bill. So he viewed black people in terms of crime. The way you help black people is to do crime. So everything else, there's no other plan. We're going to fix crime. Like, we're going to free you from prisons and we'll solve all your problems, right? That tells you how he views black people. And I always say, you want to know what Donald Trump thinks of black people? Look at who is his Secretary of Department of Housing and Urban Development, Ben Carson, who was a so-called renowned surgeon. He made a renowned surgeon a Secretary of HUD because he grew up in the ghetto or he grew up in a poor neighborhood. Like, think about that. That's what Donald Trump thinks of black people, right? But Joe Biden brought it to, as the debate went on, Joe Biden brought it on to the issue at hand. Donald Trump, at that moment, we didn't know that he had coronavirus. That was Tuesday night. But we now know that he had coronavirus. And Joe Biden brought it home and said he's a failure. So here's Joe Biden talking about the failure of leadership as far as Donald Trump and why you should get rid of him. Because he failed. He panicked and failed.
That he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or he just looked at the stock market. One of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died. And a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
Joe brought it home. The issue at hand is the coronavirus. Not you, the coronavirus, but the coronavirus that's affecting majority of Americans. But the tone of this debate was set from the beginning. Here's a clip of Joe Biden letting him know, you got the wrong one. You know what I mean? Like, he was like, yo, it was almost like Joe Biden was like in the older white man kind of way. Like, yo, I'll smack the shit out you, bro.
You picked
Be surprised.
the wrong guy, the wrong night at the wrong time.
But on a serious note, though, intellectually speaking, Donald Trump is not smart enough for Joe Biden, because as all that was going on, Donald Trump was rambling. Meanwhile, Joe Biden had all of his points together. And the difference between Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton is that, remember we talked about that patriarchy situation? The optics of two white males is different from the optic of a white man berating a white woman, right? In sort of a disrespectful, not sort of, a disrespectful kind of way. It doesn't come off the same way with Joe Biden. So Joe Biden is able to outshine him. You understand? On an intellectual level. And that's honestly speaking that, Donald Trump is not an intelligent person, right? I've never heard this man sit down and talk about something gave you the plans out. One thing they've always said about President Obama, and always remember that President Obama has been a complete threat to Donald Trump, because Donald Trump did not like the fact that this black man was getting all this attention. He's always felt like, why he's getting all this attention? He's smarter than me. You understand? So I forgot where I was going. But yeah, I've never heard. You're right. So they've always said about Barack Obama that President Barack Obama, his ability to sit down, listen to something. Every advisor that's ever talked about him, anyone that's ever dealt with him, they always said they're always amazed as the question he has, the way he sit down, he listen, and he learns about a subject. You know, anyone who says that about Donald Trump is still being paid by him. Everyone else is like, this guy's an imbecile. You understand? So Joe Biden wrapped intelligence around him during that debate. And if you want to see another great debate and you've made it all the way to the end of this, the great debate will be between Senator Kamala Harris of California and current Vice President Michael Pence, who it will be interesting to watch, because this is a man that says he doesn't go in the room by himself with a woman. So I wonder, will Mike Pence have his wife up on the stage at the debate? I don't know. But you know what? Because Donald Trump had the coronavirus, and they know how reckless the Trump team has been with the coronavirus. And I'll back up real quick to Jamie Harrison and Lindsey Graham debate. Jamie Harrison bought his own plexiglass that looked to be about like 10 feet tall and put it between him and Lindsey Graham. It looked like they were standing about 9 feet apart. And Senator Kamala Harris, for the VP debate that's taking place on October 7th, this Wednesday, she has asked that they be moved 5 feet farther apart. So instead of being 6 feet apart, I'm guessing they'll be 11 feet apart. Hopefully she'll bring her own plexiglass. I doubt it, because this is on the national stage. So I believe the 11 feet, the 10 plus feet apart will suffice, hopefully, for her. And hopefully, it comes out, I honestly, Kamala Harris, she's going to do her damn thing. Because one thing I've liked about Kamala Harris, she's continuously said this, that she's going to prosecute the case against Donald Trump. She's always laid this out. And listen, she was a prosecutor, right? She's always laid it out that this man is a criminal. And that's where she automatically, she gets points on the board for. But Troy, you said in the earlier episode, we don't keep score. I know. Stick with me. I can't help it. It's the pettiness, right? She already gets points, numbers on the board. That's an old Pusha T song. Listen to that song. That shit. Oh, my God. The production, the lyrics. Oh, my goodness. But anyway, she get numbers on the board for already approaching it as they're criminals. It's right. I've told you almost every other episode I've told you that, Sarah Kendzior, right? Always talk about they're a crime syndicate operating as a government, right? It's just, and that's how Kamala Harris approaches it. She was like, "Yo, this is a crime syndicate, and I'm going to treat them as a crime syndicate," right? She said, "This is a transnational crime syndicate masquerading as a government." And that's Sarah Kendzior has said that about them. And that's how Kamala Harris approaches the Trump administration. I hope you enjoyed this episode. You could check us out on SoundCloud, Google Play, TuneIn, iTunes. Now we're up on YouTube. Now we have the website. When I say we, I mean me. I'm a one-man army, A-Son, Brooklyn. I ain't never been taken out. I keep MC, but you get what I'm saying. Check the podcast out. Keep coming back. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you listened to the entire thing. I know you have a lot going on in your life, but I really appreciate you taking the time to tune in each and every week. I totally appreciate it. Next Monday is a holiday. Next Monday is a federal holiday. It's Indigenous People Day. There will be no episode. So I hope you just go back and listen to all episodes you didn't catch. So without, all that good stuff, I appreciate it. Yo, y'all stay safe. Wear your mask. Wash your hands. Keep your 6 feet. Stay safe. Hip Hop Generation, we out.
I'm not saying I'm going to rule the world or I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world. And that's our job, is to spark somebody else watching us.